Welcome back to Two Peas in the Kitchen.
Today we are going to make a very festive spinach tortellini soup. It has sausage in it. It's very tomatoey. It's delicious, and we think you're going to love it.
And you can make it ahead, so stay tuned to see how. All right, so we're going to start here. I have a 5¼ quart pot already on about medium heat. And I'm just gonna eyeball it, but it'll be about 2 to 3 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil right to the bottom of the pot. And we're going to saute our vegetables first. So here I have 1 cup of chopped onion. It's already sizzling. There's nothing like the smell of onion, I think, and garlic. We're going to add garlic later. And I'm going to just saute these for about a couple minutes, and then go ahead and add, right after that, here I have about 3/4 cup of chopped carrots and 3/4 cup of celery. Okay, so the beauty about this recipe is everything's in one pot, so you don't have to fuss. So my onions have been cooking for about 2 to 3 minutes. They're fragrant, they're translucent. I'm gonna go ahead and add my 3/4 cup carrots and 3/4 cup celery. A pinch, not too much, a pinch of salt, because we are going to add sausage to this so that there's plenty of seasoning in that. So you don't want to overdo the salt. You can always add it at the end to taste. So we're gonna add any extra salt right at the very end. So we're gonna saute our vegetables for about 3 to 4 minutes or so, just to partially cook them before we move on and add our sausage. Okay, next we're going to add our sausage. So this is almost a pound. You can add about 3/4 pound to 1 pound of sausage. This is regular pork sausage. This one is spicy. You can use mild if you don't like spicy. You can also use chicken sausage too, whatever your preference is. So I'm going to go ahead and add this right into our pot here. I'm going to break it up, and I'm going to cook it all the way through. So it's cooked all the way through before we proceed on. So sometimes you really have to break it up. You don't want any large chunks. Keep stirring it pretty often until it looks cooked all the way through before we proceed on. Okay, so now our sausage is nice and cooked. We're ready to move on. So I'm going to go ahead and add 2 minced cloves of garlic. And we need to get all of that goodness in there. Don't waste that. And I have here 1 teaspoon of dried basil. And remember, there's a lot of seasoning in the sausage, so you don't have to overdo it. This is going to be plenty of seasoning. I didn't even add pepper. You can if you want, but I use hot sausage, so I think it's already going to be delicious. So stir it up, cook it for about a minute or so. And then we're going to go ahead and add our tomatoes. So here we have, this is just a 14-ounce can of fire-roasted diced tomatoes. And then, since I want it tomatoey, we have some crushed tomatoes as well. So I'm going to go ahead and add those now. It's been about at least 30 seconds. You don't need that long. You just want to partially cook the garlic. So here's the fire-roasted tomatoes, and then our crushed tomatoes. And you know what? These ingredients actually matter. So use the best tomatoes that you can. These are imported from Italy. I also like crushed San Marzano tomatoes. Those are absolutely delicious. It really does make a difference. So I'm just going to give this a good stir, and Bess is going to take over and tell you about the rest of it and how easy it is.
Okay, so before we add our broth into the soup, I'm just going to talk about it for just a minute. In this pot, we have 8 cups. This is homemade chicken broth, and we say repeatedly that we prefer to use homemade chicken broth, but we didn't just make it today. It actually came out of the freezer. So if you look on our channel, you'll find our recipe for our easy homemade chicken broth. And there's also a second video that talks about the method that we use to freeze our chicken broth. We love to keep chicken broth in the freezer. We freeze it in little containers called super cubes. They're silicone containers. We have 1 cup and 2 cup and even a 6 cup size. And then we just pop them out of the freezer when it's time to make soups like this. Homemade chicken broth really does make a difference when you're making soup. So we really encourage you to get in the habit of making it. We'll make a big pot of it. We store it in the freezer and then we just pop it out on a busy day. This other thing I wanted to talk about this soup is that this soup actually is very hearty. It's very satisfying. It's a great holiday meal because it will satisfy a lot of people, and you can make it in advance. We mentioned at the beginning, this soup does have tortellini in it. I would not make it in advance with the tortellini in it. You can make the entire soup up to the end where we put the tortellini in, store it in the refrigerator until you're ready to use it, pop it out, and then add the tortellini when you're warming up the soup the day you're going to serve it. And now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get this broth into our soup pot. Okay, so we've poured our broth in here, and I'll just really quick give you a quick view here. This is going to simmer for a little while and let all of the flavors infuse. The other thing that I wanted to mention, and this is a shout out to several of my family members and some of our friends who have said, I just don't have time to make homemade chicken broth. As we say in every video, we understand that. Not everybody has time to do that, and that's totally fine. Here is our preference when we don't have homemade chicken broth on hand in our freezer. This Better Than Bouillon, this is the organic Better Than Bouillon. This is the chicken, the roasted chicken base. This is a great product, and we actually think that this is more delicious than most chicken broth that you can buy in a box or in a can. They suggest that you use a teaspoon of this mixed with 8 ounces of water to kind of come up with the perfect texture and the perfect flavor. We think that that's a bit overkill, so we use a little bit less than that. And you can always add a little bit more to your soup if you feel like you need a little bit more flavor, but this is a great alternative if you just don't have time to make homemade chicken broth or you don't have any on hand. Okay, so our soup has now been simmering for about a half an hour. You could let it simmer for a half an hour or up to an hour. And this is the point at which, if you're making your soup the day before, you would just take this off the heat, let it cool on the stove, and you can just go ahead and stick it right into your refrigerator, and you can pull it back in the next day or even a couple of days. I would say up to 3 or 4 days, you could leave this in the refrigerator and have it done so that when you have company coming, it's ready to go easy. If you're doing that method and you're making it in advance, you're going to want to bring it back up to a simmer before we proceed with the rest of this recipe. Ours is ready to go. It's been simmering here, like I said, for about a half an hour. We have 9 ounces of, this is just a spinach tortellini. You could really use any tortellini. We chose this because it's the holiday season and we liked the color variation of having the red soup with the green tortellini. So that's why we picked these. And this is just a cheese tortellini. We're going to put all 9 ounces of the tortellini into the soup. And after we do that, it really just takes about another 5 or 6 minutes. Oh, I lost one there, but that's okay. And you can see how pretty that's going to be. Look, the red and the green of the tortellini makes this really, really festive for the holidays. This is a great thing to make ahead for Christmas Day if you have people coming to visit, or even for Christmas Eve if you just want to keep things easy. And now we're going to let that cook for 5 minutes and then we're going to taste it.
Our soup's ready, so it's just been 5 minutes, or just according to your package instructions, to cook the tortellini. And I'm just gonna taste this here with the tortellini. This is probably the easiest soup that you can make at home, and it's good because you can make it ahead of time and have it all ready. So I hope you enjoy this soup as much as we do. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and we will see everybody next time.